back again, everybody. This week we are going to take some learnings over the last year on leadership. The leadership conversations we had with a number of people are going to feature this week. Every time I listen to this, I have to re-record in my brain how these conversations have impacted my life. I'm sure you're going to have lots of fun this week listening to the highlights of the last year's conversations. Enjoy it. Enjoy your mind. But in the technical field that you are in, you are a specialist, you're a geologist, you're actually one of the competent people signing off on this annual resource declaration for the business, which is obviously a massive responsibility. In the technical field, you are very passionate about relationships and teamwork and investing in people. Where does that come from? Tell us a little bit about that passion.
I think I realized very early on, starting on the mines, that if you have people in your corner, that, you're always going to have support. And I think, as I said, it comes with having a voice. As a specialist, typically you're advising people and you're giving them recommendations, and they can choose to listen to what you're saying or ignore it. And obviously, a lot of the recommendations have a safety component to it as well.
Yes.
So I think if you have those relationships with people, it builds trust, and once someone trusts you, I think then they're more inclined to then take your recommendations and apply them, and they realize, okay, she knows what she's talking about. Let's try this out, or then enter into that dialogue and say, look, we don't necessarily agree with you, but let's tweak it. Is there something else we can try? And I think it just opens up as I said, the trust. If you have a relationship with people, they do trust you. And they value your opinions and what it is that you're bringing to the table. So that's definitely something that I've always, right from the beginning, I very quickly realized that in this industry specifically, it's probably like that everywhere else, but just building those relationships, because even if you move across the property to shafts, I still see people at the shaft that I started at, and they still greet, and they it's like seeing a long lost friend, and that's such an awesome feeling, because you realize that you did have an impact on those people. Maybe you taught them something, and you always learn something from them. And something else that I often tell the people that are my mentees, that a lot of times if you walk into a room or into a discussion, you need to act like you're always going to learn something from that person, because they see that engagement. They see that you're genuinely willing to listen to them, that you want to hear them out. You're not just listening to reply, you're listening to understand. And I always like to approach it that way, going into a meeting, that I can always learn something from the people that I'm talking to, no matter who they are. I'm not one for titles or this is your position, this is my position. It's regardless of who you are, I can learn something from you, and it's only going to benefit me. And the hope is that it's vice versa. You have a conversation with someone that you have a deep relationship with, you have this trust, and like I said, they trust what you say. They're willing to implement your recommendations. So for me, that's where everything comes from in terms of teamwork and that kind of thing. If people trust you, and they're in your corner, then you're always going to, manage and come right, I think, a lot better than if it's the opposite. If there's this friction, it hampers progress and, adding value and all of that.
Yeah.
So that's sort of always been my philosophy about relationships.
Sure. I love that, because in the technical field, as you say, we are the specialists that advise, and our clients don't always want to or have to take our advice. We know it better because we can see the numbers, we can see the technical understanding of it, and they don't always. And for many years, I was on the other side of the table, where people like yourself advise to me, and now I'm advising to others, and it is a very different environment. It is one where you have to take people along and collaborate and include them and really try and understand where they are. And I love what you are saying there. Have you ever had, you probably have, we all have had relationships going wrong, but how do you fix a relationship that has gone wrong, especially in a technical area where it hasn't gone as planned?
It's quite difficult for me, Christy. I'm an introvert, so naturally my first inclination is just to withdraw into myself and avoid conflict. So I've had to come out of my shell a lot, and I think if things get skewed, like any relationship, I suppose it takes work, and you just have to take it step by step. So if things go wrong or you have a disagreement, as I said, for me the first thing is not to take it personally. Try and understand, and another thing that I'm quite passionate, or that I strongly believe, is that empathy goes such a long way. I like to be an empathetic leader, because people, if people as well, if they relate to you, I think then that also builds relationships. So I think if things are skewed, take it step by step, slowly but surely. You have to rebuild, have those conversations, have the engagements. But yeah, as I mentioned, it's difficult sometimes. I avoid conflict at all costs. So I would normally, make a joke or try and make light of the situation before, going into sort of a bit more of an in-depth discussion, trying to repair things. That's normally been my strategy. So that's also, as I mentioned, learning every day how to deal with conflict, repair relationships if things have gone a bit sour, or if you've had disagreements. So I still struggle with that. It's something that I have to work on. Again, it's a lot of these things are learned behaviors. You have to practice them. So it's something that that I definitely still work on. That's tough for me.
But it's beautiful, and thank you for being vulnerable. There are various levels of getting to know one another. It can be quite superficial and factual. So you've got children, and where did you study? What do you like to do in your part-time? Are there common interests? So getting to know people, asking general questions to get to know them a little bit better. But that is not enough if we want to build high-performance teams, because we spend quite a bit of time, 70% of our waking days in a job or a profession. And it's so important to get to know the people that you work with and spend most of your time with, to get to know them really well. So there's a saying that goes, I will only trust you if I know that you care for me. And if you show a keen interest in getting to know your team, it's the very first point of actually starting to build that team. And one of the fantastic ways that you can get to know your team is to use tools to get them to know them better. And as an upfront disclaimer, I'm not getting paid at all by any of the products or the places or websites I'm going to mention now. But there are very good tools out there that are quite free, and that can help you to get to know your team a little bit better. One of them that I've recently used is Marcus Buckingham's Strength Finder test. And it's on, you can just Google it, and there's a free assessment. And what Marcus has done, him and his team, for decades now, they've got like hundreds of thousands of samples and people that they've developed this tool. And it's a 10 to 15 minutes assessment. And what it does, it naturally takes what you're good at, your natural passion for, firstly, what you're good at, and then what you love doing. And it has an intersection point of developing a profile of your two biggest strengths as an individual. And we are all different, and those combinations, and it's like 9 profiles overall. And those 9 profiles have got 2 dominant ones that overlap, and it then sort of, that becomes your genius. Then there's and so you can do that test online, and you can send it to your members, the link, and you can have them do the test, and you can ask them to share that with you. And in preparation for a team building session, you can have this information, and then you can start sharing that information, and everybody can maybe, participate in reading out loud somebody else's team strengths. And it's quite an awakening when people start discovering what they're naturally good at. Because the important thing is that from this exercise, we generally don't grow in our areas of weaknesses, but we naturally grow in our areas of strengths. So if we have got formation, what we're really good at, and what gives us energy at work, we can bring that into the workplace, and we can also leverage that from a fellow team member. So that's but there are other tools as well. I follow regularly the Working Genius podcast. It's a phenomenal podcast that has got 6 types of working geniuses in the workplace and in life in general, even in your family relationships, that you can leverage those natural geniuses of people. And we all have got geniuses, natural gifts and talents. And if you can leverage those and bring it into the workplace, then you are so much more effective. Because some of us are in roles or doing specific tasks at work which really frustrates us. And in the Working Genius model, for example, there are 2 areas of frustration. You have 2 geniuses, you've got 2 working competencies, and you've got 2 areas of frustration. And if you're given tasks at work or doing activities at work that are in your frustration level, it actually withdraws or takes your energy away, and you get quite depleted during the working day. All right, so that's the first one, is how well do you know your team, and are you putting things in place to start to get to know them? All right, now we touch on the second one. What are they naturally good at? And it links to the previous conversation of, the working genius, getting a profile done, getting an assessment done, and just having a conversation. I've for many years, when I'm new in a team, I would sit one-on-one with every team member, and I would ask them, what are your strengths? What are you naturally good at? And some people are quite humble and they don't want to talk about it, or they just naturally humble. But most of us have got strengths and we know what they are. And if you can understand that from your team, you can leverage that. Because let's say, for example, one of the strengths is I'm quite creative and I do creative things, and I always come up with new plans of solutions. Then if there's a situation at work in your team where you have to find new plans or new ideas, you can leverage that strength of a team member. Let's say one of your team members is naturally good at galvanizing the team and is the natural team captain or the energizer bunny in the workplace. And they love mobilizing a team and inspiring the team and getting the team around a common goal and doing something. You can use that in your team to have that person function in that area of strength. So do you know the strengths of your team, and have you done anything to find out what those strengths are, and how are you leveraging it? So that was the second point. The third one is facilitating a team building session. And this can be quite tricky, and I was faced with this because we have got a new team, and my ideal way of doing a team building session is have it facilitated by an independent person. And there are consultants out there that can do that, but it costs you money, and it costs you sometimes getting away from the workplace and being in a neutral venue, and it goes with cost to do that. But there are other ways of doing it. You can do it a lot cheaper. You can do it in an informal setting. You can do it on a weekend when nobody's working, and you do it for a day. Or what we've done is I did all the preparation work. I sent the assessments out and the links, and I asked the team members to fill in their assessments and to do it, and to send me the reports back. I asked them to write down their short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals that they have for themselves at a personal level, but also in a business context level, at a work level. And I prepared a presentation, and then we did everything online. And we were in different parts of the country and in the world, and the four of us got together on Zoom, and we did that. I had the information, I had a presentation, I was sharing, we're taking the company, and we were looking at everybody's different profiles. We analyzed that. We had lots of laughs and fun doing it. And we really had a really good 3-hour session online of just getting to know each other at a much deeper level. And now for some of these people I've known for 30 years, but I didn't know them at the level of, or the depth at which those assessments and what we've learned from each other at that particular team building event. And what it did for us, it just galvanized us very quickly in mobilizing our strengths and getting to know what we're good at. There are other informal settings that you can just have a barbecue, you can go out to a sporting event together. You can do various things to build your team, but you have to, in some way, have a formal session where you are quite intentional as the leader at what you want to achieve from that session. Do you need some one-on-one coaching? Do you know that theminingcoach.com offer these services as part of Kumena Consulting? Kumena means grow, and most top athletes and sport teams all have coaches to grow and become better. Why don't you reach out to us by sending us an email, and you will qualify for getting your first coaching session absolutely free. Contact us at christo@theminingcoach.com. Terms and conditions apply.
And what do you say to a younger Nadia that's coming in to the mining sector as a leader, maybe in information technology, and having to lead a team, and you don't know anything about mining? What would your advice be to them?
Right. Well, I think first of all, most relationships. Yeah, yes, I had relationships, but I built a little bit too late on to focus on really building quality relationships. So build on your relationships. And it's all about influence. Doesn't matter about your title that you have, but it's about how can you influence and work with the next person. And that's going to get you far in the future. So relationships. And then try as far as possible early on to get a mentor. So yes, now at this stage in my life, yes, I do have a mentor. I had it since 2016, 17. But it was very flimsy. Yeah, you have to put up a mentor, so you give up a name. But now you start realizing the importance of it. So I would say, please look at that. And then, of course, I'm still stuck on try and build as much experience as you can. Yes, there's now the experience within your career, but also build experience in your personal life, what you do with yourself outside of the office. Because what you do outside of the office is going to impact who you are in the boardroom or at the office, your workplace. So meet with different cultures. If you travel, try and travel where you can experience different cultures, because the way that you see the world will change because of that. And then look after your health. Where I'm at, yes, I do a lot of looking after my health at the moment. I've got this thing, and I've been coaching to my friends and even colleagues about cold water therapy. It's something I've started a couple of years ago, and even in COVID, mind you, I renovated my house remotely in Windhoek. And when I was staying there for the lockdown period, my geyser wasn't locked, it wasn't connected, and I couldn't have people in the house, so I had to shower in the cold, and that's where I started. And then I started reading up on it.
Yeah.
And it is so amazing. So start with things that can help your body, help your mind. So, and then see how you invest in yourself, because what you do to your body and your mind, be it now the intellectual growth that you provide to it, at the end of the day, it's your investment. And then put some money aside for your elderly days. Be it try and get a second income. If you can afford to buy something for rental income, I know property is very difficult nowadays, but we have now things as the part shares, easy equities, unit trust. Try and put something away for yourself. At the end of the day, it all makes up who you are and how you've invested in yourself. Yeah, I think, and maybe just one or two last things in terms of my younger self's advice. Introspection. Do introspection. Try and sit down with a little book on a Sunday and reflect.
Yeah.
I try and talk to my team in my morning meetings about reflection, but yeah, people think it's flimsy, but it is important.
Sure.
That later on in your career, you'll probably or in your life, you'll probably realize it. And then maybe lastly is maybe look and review what are you feeding? Are you feeding the ego or are you feeding your soul? And try and see how can you kill that ego. So yeah, that's some of the advice I would want to give myself.
Nadia, it's really like blowing me away. I mean, you've just like rattled off probably 600 books that are written on all of these subjects. And you like, okay, what will I advise myself? So you've just rattled off looking after your health, looking after your mental well-being, you know, educating yourself, reflecting, taking part of your physical part of the body. Pieter, you're a very humble guy, and you just say it by, you know, in like, okay, in the conversation, mentioning a few things, but there's amazing things that you've been part of, but you're also a guy of principles. And I remember when we had our prep session and we discussed who you are and, you know, sort of your history. And also just for our listeners and those people watching on YouTube, Pieter is also, I've asked him to be my mentor. So he's also a mentor to me for a while now. And I'm learning a lot from him. So that's why I thought it's good for you to also meet one of my mentors. And yeah, he's just an amazing person. But Pieter, from that perspective, you're also a person of principle, and there was a reason why you left sort of the call it the army life, and that was a key driver for you when you actually left that call it very senior position and a very good career.
Yeah, what I can say, talk about principles.
Yeah, without talking politics or anything, but you are a person of principles, married for 38 years. That takes hard work, and that's a person of value.
Yeah, so if I can just talk about principles, as a 16-year-old, I decided that I'm going to be, I gave my heart to God. And as in grade 11, from there on, it was part of the passion of my life, working and doing all the things that's important for me around that. I think that on a personal level, that's for me something that you need to do in this space. And for the last 44 years, that's the guidance for me and what we're doing in life. Second thing that's for me quite important during this, and as part of a child of God, is I think your family life. It's all about family. That's the people close to you. And I'm married for 38 years with Corina, and I hope there's going to be another 38 years with her. I know the years is against me to achieve that. And then thirdly is, I think if you talk about these things in life and what you want to achieve in this space, for a person to be doing things on earth and to be a Christian, I think my purpose is to produce godly offsprings, and that's part of your children that you need to protect and make sure that they are guided in the right way. And I can say both my two are well established in that area, and they're a good example, even for me, how to do that. So if you talk about principles, all the principles is built on that. But I think the more important thing here for us today, Christo, is how the principles, how you use that in normal business environment. And for me, that was the things that was always keeping me honest. Making sure I do the right things, doing business in the ethic ways. It's so easy that you start focusing on things on the side, and as soon as you start doing those type of things, that's not that important. According to your principles, then you're just getting on the wrong in the wrong way, doing the wrong things on that side. So for me, if I can say, and I know you asked me also that I must share what's my biggest achievement in life. And
Thanks for that.
If I can link it to the principles, the question that you asked me on this is to take a business over a 14-year period and grow it 35 times. For me, and it was a business, it wasn't that small when we start off with that. And it was all in the mining side, using technology to do that. But it wasn't possible if it wasn't for that guidance that I've got and the principles that I was, that drive me in this direction. So that's about the principles.
The Mining Coach is part of Kumena Consulting. If your company is in need of technical study support, due diligence studies, business improvement projects, or business and senior leadership coaching, why don't you contact us directly by clicking on the show notes and following the links that will connect you to us. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your mining. Cheers.